The cameras flashed like lightning, relentless, blinding, hungry. And in the middle of it all stood Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson, side by side once again. It wasn't a movie premiere, not a scripted reunion. It was real, public, and the world wasn't ready for it. For years, their names had been inseparable and yet divided by scandal, silence, and speculation. Ever since 50 Shades of Grey took Hollywood by storm, Jamie and Dakota had carried the weight of a story that refused to end, even when the credits rolled. But this night was different. Jamie hadn't walked beside Dakota in public for years. And when he finally did, hand resting gently on her back, a soft smile breaking through his usual restraint, it sent shockwaves through every corner of the internet. The event was a major awards ceremony in Los Angeles, filled with the industry's brightest faces. Jamie was invited for his latest project, Dakota was there for hers. But no one expected them to arrive together. The moment they stepped onto that carpet, every camera turned. Every journalist gasped. Every headline wrote itself. Jamie Dornan defies critics. Dakota Johnson and Jamie Dornan, together again? Where is Amelia Warner? Social media erupted. Within minutes, their pictures were trending worldwide. Fans flooded the internet with excitement, calling it a dream reunion. But not everyone was cheering. Critics called it tone-deaf, reckless, even disrespectful. Some accused Jamie of humiliating his wife, Amelia Warner, by choosing to appear publicly with Dakota after years of controversy. Still, Jamie didn't flinch. He walked with quiet confidence, stopping for photos, exchanging soft laughter with Dakota. The two looked comfortable, natural, like old friends who had nothing to hide, and perhaps too much to say without words. Behind the cameras, tension was palpable. Reporters shouted questions over the crowd. Jamie, why now? Dakota, how does it feel to be back together in public? Neither answered. Instead, Dakota smiled faintly, whispering something only Jamie could hear. He nodded, lips pressed in a half-smile that said more than any public statement ever could. For years, Jamie had avoided this exact situation. He'd turned down appearances with Dakota, declined invitations to shared interviews, and maintained a respectful distance, not because he wanted to, but because he felt he had to. The world had already blurred the lines between fiction and reality once. He wasn't going to let it happen again. But something had changed. In the weeks leading up to that event, Jamie had been under intense public pressure. A controversial magazine piece had resurfaced old rumors about his off-screen chemistry with Dakota, painting him as the man who couldn't let go of the past. He had ignored the noise at first, as he always did, but when the narrative started affecting Dakota, when she began receiving hateful comments and online harassment, Jamie decided enough was enough. According to one insider, he felt responsible. He knew Dakota was paying a price for something they both had already moved past. So he chose to make a statement, to stand beside her publicly, not in secret, not as a rumor, but as a friend. That night, his choice was clear. He wasn't there to reignite old gossip. He was there to protect someone who had once protected him, during his darkest, most vulnerable days. Still, the backlash was immediate. Comment sections turned into battlefields. Some fans praised him for loyalty and courage. Others accused him of seeking attention, of disrespecting his marriage. Yet Jamie didn't respond to a single headline. When a reporter cornered him backstage and asked, "Do you regret coming here with Dakota tonight?" Jamie paused, then said quietly, "Sometimes, it's about showing up for someone who showed up for you." Those words became the quote that defined the night, printed in magazines, shared across millions of posts, dissected in endless online debates. In the days that followed, paparazzi photos captured Dakota leaving the same after-party, with Jamie close behind. There was no hand-holding, no secret glances, just a quiet, familiar bond that seemed to say, "We've both been through too much to hide anymore." But not everyone saw it that way. Inside the Hollywood bubble, whispers began again. Executives worried about bad optics. Amelia Warner's name trended alongside theirs, sparking rumors of new tension at home. For Jamie, it was a storm he'd predicted and accepted. Because this time, he wasn't running from the noise. He was walking straight into it. And as he left that event with Dakota by his side, flashes bursting, questions flying, there was a look in his eyes that few noticed amid the chaos. It wasn't pride. It wasn't rebellion. It was peace. Because for the first time in years, Jamie Dornan wasn't acting for anyone else. He was simply standing beside a friend, unapologetically, unashamed, and unafraid of what the world would say next. The morning after the event, Hollywood was divided. Half the world called Jamie Dornan a hero, the man who stood by his friend no matter the cost. The other half called him reckless, a husband inviting chaos into his home once again. Paparazzi followed him everywhere, outside his house, outside his gym, even at his children's school. The headlines didn't stop. Jamie chooses Dakota over Amelia. The scandal resurfaces. History repeats itself. Every article twisted his gesture of friendship into something dark, forbidden, scandalous. But behind the noise, there was a truth no one saw. Jamie hadn't attended that event as a man chasing controversy. He did it because he remembered. He remembered a time years earlier when he was the one breaking apart, when fame had crushed him, when tabloids tore into his family, and when Dakota was the only person who didn't run away. She had defended him when no one else would. In interviews, she refused to let people reduce Jamie to a caricature of Christian Grey. When journalists mocked his acting, she stopped them mid-sentence. When rumors about his marriage hit the tabloids, she told reporters, "Jamie is one of the most loyal men I've ever met. Don't mistake roles for reality." Back then, those words had meant everything. Now, years later, when Dakota was being attacked by the same industry machine, when online trolls called her manipulative, toxic, and selfish, Jamie knew it was his turn to stand beside her. He just didn't expect the price to be so high. Amelia Warner stayed quiet for days after the event. No public statement, no comment, just silence. Friends close to the couple said she was hurt, not by jealousy, but by déjà vu. It felt like history was looping, like every time Jamie and Dakota shared a stage, the piece she had built started to crumble again. But this time, Jamie didn't run from the conversation. One evening, he came home after a long day of filming, the house dark except for a single lamp in the living room. Amelia was there, waiting. For a while, neither spoke. Then she asked softly, "Did you know what people would say?" Jamie nodded. "I did." "Then why?" she whispered. He sighed. "Because I couldn't let the world tear her apart for something she didn't do. She stood up for me when everyone else stayed quiet. I owed her that much." Amelia looked at him, searching his face, the man she'd loved for more than a decade. There was no anger in her eyes this time, only weariness. "And what about us?" she asked. Jamie swallowed hard. "Us? We've survived worse. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving that this, you, the kids, our home, is still everything to me." She didn't answer right away. But something in his tone, the quiet sincerity, made her believe him. Outside their home, the noise continued. Columnists debated whether Jamie's chivalry was genuine or self-serving. Fan accounts posted side-by-side photos of him with Dakota, comparing body language, reading meaning into every glance. But inside, the story was far less dramatic and far more human, about loyalty, misunderstanding, and the complicated truth of caring for someone the world insists you shouldn't. A week later, Dakota broke her silence too. In an interview promoting her latest film, she was asked about the viral photos. She smiled softly and said, "Jamie is one of my closest friends. People forget that kindness still exists in this business. He's always been brave enough to show it." Her calm tone diffused the tension, but it also revealed something deeper. A bond built not on romance, but on mutual survival. They had both been through the same fire, and only they truly knew what it felt like to come out the other side. When Jamie read that interview, he reportedly said to a friend, "That's Dakota. Always graceful, always honest, And maybe that's what made their connection so complicated, because it wasn't a scandal. It was something rarer. Respect that refused to die, even under the weight of years of scrutiny. Weeks later, Jamie attended another public event, this time with Amelia by his side. Cameras flashed again, headlines swirled again, but this time he looked calmer. He greeted Dakota warmly across the room but didn't linger. For once, it wasn't a spectacle. It was closure. In the end, Jamie Dornan hadn't defied Hollywood for attention. He'd done it to remind the world, and perhaps himself, that loyalty still means something. That friendship can survive judgment. That sometimes, the bravest thing a man can do is stand in front of the storm and say, "I'm not ashamed." Because fame fades, scandals end, and stories move on. But loyalty, real, quiet, imperfect loyalty, remains. And as Jamie left that second event, Amelia's hand in his, Dakota's soft smile across the room, there was a rare stillness in his eyes. The kind that comes when a man finally makes peace with every part of his story.